Hi, you are listening or watching the Mito podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Megan.
And we are going to talk to you guys about the hospital. It can be really hard to plan and prepare for what you need for when you, I guess that's not the best way to start the podcast. It's a lot times when you have mitochondrial disease, it's inevitable that you will end up in the hospital at some point. It might be a day, it might be a couple of hours. It's the case for most children. I mean, you fall, you hurt, you break your leg, break an arm, something like that. So it's not that it's abnormal to go to the hospital. It's just more likely if you have a mitochondrial disease, you will end up in the hospital at some point. And I felt like this would be a good podcast because there were so many things that were going on when Angie was in the hospital that I just want to make sure that people are aware of the different resources that are available to you. And some of them sound scary at first, especially if you've never been in the hospital with your child. And they sound scary, but they aren't. They're there to help you. And so a couple of things. I know, Megan, we were talking prior to the podcast, and thankfully Troy, he's going to be 13 very soon. In what, a week, 2 weeks?
So a couple weeks. Yeah.
He's going to be 13, and he fortunately has only had one hospital stay, right?
Two. He's had two.
Oh, okay. What was I know one you said was a week. What was the other one?
Yeah, so he had RSV, which is a respiratory virus, and he started having seizures with a high fever. So he ended up in the hospital with that. And then he fractured his jaw in two places and ended up having to have a metal plate put in his jaw. That was the second one. And you know what? I forgot too. The most recent, which I say that, but it's been a few years. He had the flu and we were in the hospital for a week. So he's had 3 hospital stays.
Poor guy. I didn't know he had to have a metal plate put in.
Yeah. He was riding one of those little push cars. And of course, he had a helmet on, but he doesn't have a fall reflex. And I was chasing right after him, right next to him. And the little push car hit like an uneven space in the sidewalk. And he just right down into the cement with his chin. And we didn't know it was broken. It was a little swollen, but he didn't cry. He was fine. And then I think it was 2 days later, he just cried, like could not stop. And he doesn't really cry that much at all, if ever. And we took him immediately. I took him into the pediatrician and he's like, oh, he seems fine. And took x-rays and he had fractured it in 2 different spots. And so we immediately had to go to Children's and met with the doctor there, the surgeon, and he had to go into surgery. And then we were there for about a week.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah, like even thinking about it, sometimes we drive past where it happened and it just makes me so sick to my stomach. And I have to remind myself, he's okay. That was scary and it happened, but he's okay.
Oh man, that's scary. That's crazy. I didn't know that. But for RSV and obviously seizures too, or the flu, those are all very common reasons why Mito kids end up in the hospital. For Angie, obviously it was our only stay in the hospital. It was 3 weeks. She wasn't sick. They couldn't find anything actually wrong with her to cause her to be there. So she might have had like a very, very minor cold that her body just couldn't do anything with. But one thing I thought about, and I say this specifically for kids who have Lee syndrome, and there are obviously kids that have lived longer lives than Angie. But when we first Googled it, it said most kids only live to be 2 to 3 years old. And so one thing that I felt would have been good for us with that diagnosis or prognosis was to have like a go bag with simple things like a Bluetooth radio or toothbrushes, toothpaste, even like a gift card for a Visa gift card or something like that, underwear, socks, those kinds of things, because Advil, especially, or maybe not ibuprofen, some sort of like headache pain reliever, because the hospital can't give that stuff to you. So there's all these like tiny little things that I wish I had even in like a bag that you go to travel with, like when you go on a plane or something like that, already packed up and put in her room so that we would have had that. I mean, we obviously, like, it didn't take long to get all that stuff, but we would have been better prepared had we had that go bag. And when you have any child that has medical issues, um, I feel like that's something that would be really important to have.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's like
Well,
a
absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I never obviously thought about that either. But we have like Troy's emergency letter, and one of the things I have too is a list of his medications. And that's one of the things that we found is just every time we've been in the hospital, some of the stuff that he actually takes, they don't have, or it takes them a while to get it. And so, like, it's really important if your child, which kids with Mito have a lot of different things that they take, and just, to have those things with you. I mean, that's obviously, if it's an emergency, that may not be something that you grab, but if it isn't, those are good things to have with you. Not to mention if you forget, what milligrams they take, and it's, a different hospital that doesn't have your information or anything like that. Their
you're
medications
gonna be
are so
stressed.
important. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're
I never thought about that. And then every time we got there, they wouldn't have like the CoQ10 that we used, and certain stuff, and we'd have to have somebody go to our home and get it. And some of the stuff they actually won't let you. Um, they have to have approval for it. So it's a very interesting thing. But just to have your medications with you is important. But yeah, having a to go bag somewhere in case something happens, because I mean, you're usually running out the door. I mean, Troy's been taken, well, except for one time, he's been taken to the hospital both of those times in an ambulance. And so, you know, you're going in what you have, and you
yeah.
have no idea what's going to happen, how long you're going to be there, and just to have that bag that you could just grab and go, and had little things like that, and eat, or like snacks, or anything for you that is going to make a situation like that a little bit more comfortable, and have things that you might need. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, and also to comment on what you said, the emergency letter. I know we've talked about that in another podcast, but if you haven't had a chance to listen to that one yet, no. An emergency letter is something that you get from your Mito doctor, and it tells an emergency staff what to expect from your child, that they should not be treated the same as a neurotypical child. So if you do not have one, get one. It's fairly easy to get one. If your doctor doesn't do that, find a doctor or find a patient, a parent that has one, take theirs, give it to your doctor and say, you are going to write this out for me. You will sign this for me. I highly doubt any real Mito doctor would ever say no, because it's extremely important to have that. And then also what you said, Megan, about the medications list, that's another really good thing to have in that go bag, because for both reasons, because you're in such a hurry and you're talking to so many people, especially if it's an emergency, and having extra copies of that for every, but I would potentially, I would have 5 different copies of both the emergency letter and all the medications, because I can't even tell you how many times we had to repeat our story. And each time we had to say, pull up our letter, half the time they couldn't find it. The other half the time it wasn't in the file. So that way you always have it, you're prepared. They cannot have an excuse for doing something wrong. And there are a lot of things that they could do incorrectly, because your child is different, your child is special, and they should be treated that way, especially in the, I mean, I know we always want our child to be treated the same, we want all the same rights, we do,
Not in
but to the hospital, throw that out. Your child is special, they need special care. So figure out whatever. I think the good thing about a go bag too is you have to think back about when you were pregnant. What did you want to bring with you when you were going to deliver the baby? Bring those items, because I mean, obviously we won't need like breast pads or anything like that, but bring those items that you're going to need. And it's not something that you will need for a week. You can pack for one night or 2 nights. Just have something, because it's going to take 1 or 2 nights to get situated and have a room in the hospital. A lot of time, I mean, we had to wait. Gosh, we got there at like 7 o'clock at night, and we weren't admitted until after midnight. And then they took her up at like 3 a.m. And then we just kept changing floors. We were in the ICU 12 hours later. So definitely a go bag, definitely the letter, definitely your medications list. And I would also, not to tell you how you should run your household, but have your medications all in one spot. Like in our house, we had a section of the kitchen. It was on the counter. That was Angie's section, and she had all her medications there, all her syringes, everything was right there. Everything was written on the bottles. I took pictures of everything just to make sure that I would never forget what it was. And Megan is right. The hospital might not have what you need because they are supplements many times. I mean, yes, they'll have like Keppra and things for seizures and that kind of stuff. But when you're coming into B vitamins or vitamin E, those types of things they do not have. So you are going to need to get that your own stash and bring it with you. So it might be a good idea to be prepared. And I know it's hard because it costs a lot of money, but have an extra month supply also just for disasters, right? Like right now with the weather and how crazy it is in Texas, you not being able to get those supplies, FedEx not being able to get to UPS, the postage, like all mail can't get to you. So how are you going to get these supplements or medications? So make sure that in any emergency pack, even if it's not to go to the hospital, you have an extra month supply of things, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that. I just on Facebook, one of our Mito moms just posted, a lot of us get our CoQ10 from a place called Epic that's in New York. And
Yeah.
just ordered 4 bottles, and like half of them were completely ruined, which the company is great and they were completely sending new and refunding. But I literally just received mine for Troy like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh gosh, good thing we didn't run out and we ordered sooner. And, but yeah, you definitely stuff like that. You need to have backup. And it was funny that you're saying how you have a little Angie's area. We totally do. We have a basket that has everything for Troy's in it and everything that he needs. And then Tony took pictures of all the medications, how much he takes, and it's posted on a refrigerator. If, for some reason, a family member was here or something and had to do it and forgot what it was. It's just those little things that just make life easier. And all our bottles, because we have his seizure medicine and his levocarnitine comes in the same exact bottle. And so we've got like Superman duct tape around the seizure medicine. It says seizures everywhere, because we all make mistakes, and that's just stuff you don't want to make a mistake with. So
yeah, and if you're tired, just having that there, I don't remember ever, I don't know, there's maybe a couple of times where I'd measure stuff out and I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, because you make this one cocktail, especially if you're G-tube, if you're feeding them through the G-tube, you have just a bottle that you just mixed full of, 10 different medications that you're about to give her. And it'd be hard, it's hard to remember things. So definitely mark them however you need to mark them to to know which ones are which.
Yeah.
But other things specifically to the hospital, I was recently talking to a mom who is in the hospital right now with her son, and it just reminded me of all the things. And she's very prepared. She knows about all of these things, but it was things that I didn't know, and I didn't at the time. I wasn't super close with all of the Mito families here. We were brand new. We just found out a year ago, and I was still finding like that Mito group, and we'd all met and we'd been around each other a few times, but it wasn't to the point of having like full conversations about our kids or what to do, what to expect. We weren't like that close yet. So there was just a lot of things that we weren't prepared for. We didn't know that we didn't know. And maybe like even in our own little Mito community, there's a lot of things that each of us individually don't know until you experience it. But one of the main things is, so here in San Diego, we have the Ronald McDonald House that radies children, and it's right across the street. You literally just walk across the street and there it is. If you are staying in the hospital for a long period of time, the Ronald McDonald House, you can apply to be able to move in there for however long your child is in the hospital. There are obviously qualifications. There is an application that you have to fill out. But regardless of you thinking you need it or not, fill out the application just so that you have it ready. You could give up the room, which is what we did. We didn't feel right about taking a room since we live so close. We're only about 30 minutes from the hospital, and there's other families that were being life flighted in, and like there was a helicopter almost every single night that we could hear, and it was a horrible RSV season, and so we didn't want to take from another family that really needed it. But there is the application. You can live at the hospital, have a bed. I slept in 2 chairs that I pushed together, and people I'm just lucky I'm short, like it wasn't that bad. But I wasn't really sleeping that much anyways. And so you have blankets and pillows. The hospital has all that stuff for you. The Ronald McDonald House will provide you meals. You just need a wristband so that they know that you are a family that is at the hospital. It doesn't mean that you can't afford food. That has nothing to do with it. It gives you the opportunity to not leave your child, to not have to go somewhere or get stuck in traffic or be off the premises, because there was no way that I was leaving that hospital. Like if I was not within a running sprint distance to Angie, I wasn't going to go anywhere. It wasn't until our last 3 nights that I caught something from another patient and I got really sick. And so I had to choose to leave because I didn't want Angie to catch it. Sorry.
Okay.
Which was like probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. I never, ever wanted to leave her. And I like knew all the nurses by that point, and they were all telling me, it's okay, we got her, just go home. But it's a horrible feeling to know that you have to leave your child there. Sorry. But the Ronald McDonald House is there for you to help you eat. You need nutrition. You need to put food in your body. You need to keep hydrated. As much as it sucks, you don't feel like eating, you don't feel hungry, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You need to keep your energy up for your child. And if you're breastfeeding, they can provide you a pump so that you can continue to breastfeed. They will give your child the breast milk. You just have to fight for it. I didn't know that. And so they tried to pull Angie off of breast milk until we got this nurse. She was amazing. She always called Angie Princessa. And she saw me pumping and she's like, I don't want to, what are you doing? Why are we not feeding her your milk? I'm like, they won't let me. And she's like, no, that's not okay. And she went straight up to the doctors and she's like, this is ridiculous. You're giving Princessa her mama's milk. So they changed the whole plan based off of that. So Angie was getting half formula, half breast milk from that point on. So you have those resources, but you also, if you're breastfeeding, the hospital gives you coupons to be able to have free food there. So you, even if you don't want to go to the Ronald McDonald House, if you don't want to leave the room, they will provide you food and water and smoothies and everything that they can to keep your breast milk going. And it is hard. When I walked in with Angie, I don't even remember how much I was pumping, or not pumping, but feeding her, because she would just take it from the tap. But by the next day from when we entered the hospital, my breast milk had gone down by half because she wasn't there to give my body what it needed to respond. And so just know those resources are there. You can get a breast pump. You can give your child breast milk. You can get food and water and all of that provided to you. And you can receive mail. We got mail every single day. The carriers knew exactly who we were because we had boxes and boxes and envelopes of just mail from all over the US of people sending Angie stuff to decorate her room and do that. Decorate your room. You can't usually put adhesive on the walls, but you can hang stuff if you have pins, if they let you, or buy those clips. So I brought her curtains in from home so that if she woke up, that she wouldn't see a hospital, she would see her bedroom. And you can do those things, and you should have that touch, because if you're going to be there a while, make it homey, make it beautiful, because there's no point in staying in a hospital room to feel miserable. You need to cheer yourself up as well as your child. And the nursing staff, they loved it. They would walk into Angie's room and just stand there and like, we just heard that her room was decorated, so we wanted to come check it out. But those are all options, and the main one, I'm sorry I keep hogging the podcast today.
Oh, totally fine.
The main one, if you don't take any of my advice that I've given so far, the hardest one was for me, I can't speak for Andrew, was palliative care. It scared me because it to me meant that my child was going to die, and that was the last resort. That was hospice. That was the thing that we were accepting. She wasn't going to make it, and that's not the case. And maybe other people understood this. I'd never been in any type of situation like this, but they're there to help you. They're there to be the mediator between you and the doctor. And usually it's another doctor who doesn't necessarily, they see patients, but they don't see them in the same aspect as the emergency room. So it's usually a doctor and a person of God, if it's a pastor, or not usually a priest, I don't think, but in some sense that head of religion. I don't know if I'm saying any of that correctly, so sorry if I offend anybody. But they work together, and the point for them is to be the mediator and to be able to explain things in so sorry, both of my dogs are staring at me through the kitchen window, and the window is up here. But they're there to explain things to you at a level for you to be able to understand better. They're supposed to be able to talk to you, not in doctor terms. They're supposed to talk to you like a real person, not that doctors are not real people, but there's on that level. And that way they have someone to talk to the doctor that's helping your child on their level, so they can talk to both of you. And we definitely use them. Like there was a few times where we had to call them because we didn't feel things were being communicated correctly, and it helped a lot. And we were right, things were not being communicated correctly. Not that anyone was messing up, but we had to be 100% on the same page with the whole staff about Angie's care. And they needed to completely understand where we were coming from in regards to how, I don't know how to say that eloquently, but how we wanted her life to be. So it's just important. They're just really important things, and don't be scared to talk to them, even if it's just one time. That they will also talk to you about other things like Reiki and massage and healing, and they'll pray for you, and they do all of these things that I think, well, I don't even know. I think actually it was one of the nurses that talked to us and said that we should talk to them. And I'm very thankful that they told us to, because I wouldn't have if that nurse hadn't been so nice. Which is another thing, we totally spoiled everybody at the hospital. And I know not everyone has that ability to, but we knew we were going to be there for a while, and if it meant that we had to bribe whoever we needed to, we were going to do it.
Exactly.
So we brought coffee and cookies and cupcakes and sandwiches, and you do not have to do any of this, but it made a difference in them knowing who we were and knowing what we were going to do for Angie. And that was the most important thing. And our nurses ended up showing up to Angie's funeral, and they all went to the Mito 5K to represent her, and they became this family that we unfortunately don't get to see anymore, but they were amazing to us. So not every nurse is going to be amazing, but when you find one, please hold on to them and tell them how amazing they are, because it makes a huge difference in your life and in your child's life and care.
Absolutely. And like you were talking about with the palliative care, honestly, I think I learned about that at a UMDF symposium, because I too thought that's the end of life. That's, what comes in when your child or, loved one is passing away. So it's very interesting to hear that, no, that's not necessarily the case. And they do so many different things, and, having a go between you and the doctors is extremely helpful. And like you said, that nursing staff, they're the ones you're seeing for 8-10 hours straight. They're the ones that are coming in doing everything for your child. And most of the interactions we've had have been amazing. Especially, I mean, you've got to think about the type of person that goes in to be a pediatric nurse and some of the things that they see. And, they have to be caring and loving people and patient. And so it's, yeah, if you can, definitely spoil them. We love one of the nurses that we met through you, that was Angie's nurse, at Dr. Butler. And now she helps us, and she's just amazing. And it's just can make your life easier in so many different ways. You just have no idea.
She's not there anymore.
No. Oh no.
She's at Rady's now.
In a long time, which I'm thankful for, but no.
Yeah, no, she's at Rady's now, and you're right. She's absolutely amazing. She fought tooth and nail for everything for us. Calling insurance, sorry, the light is really bugging me. Calling insurance, fighting for supplements, fighting doctors. We had a really rough time in the very beginning with Angie, and she was just head and But yeah, she's over at Rady's now. She's doing allergies testings. Which is cool. I think she needed a little bit of change, and now she's doing something different, still working with kids. And she even talked about Mito in her interview, which is really cool. And I don't know how much I can share, so I'll just leave it right there. But yeah, she was an awesome nurse.
Yeah, anytime I sent in a message or there was anything going on with Troy, she would immediately call us. And we had just met her through you. It's like she just, she loved Angie, and she just accepted us and the same and started fighting for us too. And so it was just, yeah, she's amazing.
That's the thing about Mito families, at least with what I've experienced, is that it's a unique, I guess I can only speak for our families out here, because I can't say that because I've met so many amazing people, but you just end up being family. Like you meet people that you're never gonna let go of, and I just feel so fortunate. Not fortunate that obviously that Angie's gone or that she ever had this disease, but I'm very fortunate that of the people that I've met along the way. And I love seeing everyone's kids grow up, and I love getting the text messages from people sporadically just sending me pictures of their kids, and it just makes me feel special, especially with Angie gone.
Yeah. And I can definitely say, I mean, even all the parents that we've had on this podcast, and it's just, having a child that you have to fight for and go through this journey with makes you a different and a very special person. And, you just feel the love, you feel just the strength and I don't know. I totally agree with you. You're in touch, I think, with a lot more families than I actually am. But like I said, even just the ones on the podcast, every time we're done, I'm like, oh my gosh, they were so amazing, or she was so amazing. And, it's just, I don't know, our community is awesome. And it's unfortunate that, we're brought together by a disease, but, it's an amazing experience. And so many people are, battling this, and they're still just these amazing, positive people fighting for their kids or for themselves. So,
yeah. And I wanted to do a shout out. There's been a couple families that have reached out to me lately, and I know I mentioned one earlier in this podcast. And that's also kind of what inspired talking about the hospital. I'm not quite in a place where I can talk about being the mom of a child that's gone. Someday we will, because I know it's a big disservice to all the families that are fighting to remember their child. But at the same time, it's really hard to be that spokesperson, even though we so badly need it. Because I think when it comes to losing your child, it's all you do is you're just constantly fighting to remember them, and you want other Mito foundations to remember them, and you want to join in on surveys and trials and all these things, and you have nothing else to give them, because that's not what they want. They want living children, and it's very hard to be on the side of that. This is definitely not where I wanted this podcast to go.
It's okay. We are always flexible.
I think I need to stop right there and talk about that another day. My point of where I wanted to say is I wanted to give a shout out to a family, and I hope that they know who I am talking about. I didn't ask them for permission, so I don't want to say their names. But they recently reached out to me, and their son is fighting. And I just want you to know that I know it doesn't help to hear that we're thinking about you or that we're praying, but we are. And at the end of the day, if that's the only thing that you can do, 100% of your body do it. And despite how my story ended, I continue to pray for miracles for everybody else's kids. So everybody that's listening, I appreciate all of you for listening to our podcast, for making it important, for sharing it, for finding it, and especially for reaching out to us. I know that there are a couple of different Mito podcasts now, which is exciting, and I'm glad that that's something that is finally starting to expand. But thank you for finding us, because I know eventually it's probably going to be hard. Hopefully it'll be hard, because that just means that there's going to be so many out there and so many resources for you. But just know we appreciate you and continue to reach out, and we're thinking about you, even if we don't know you, knowing that you are a Mito family. Anyone who has been diagnosed, we care, and we will do everything we possibly can to continue to fight for your child and for you. And we love you. Even if we haven't met you, we love you. And if you need help, if you need to talk or you need to cry, we're here. I obviously can't tell you, Meg, call Megan. I'm not going to volunteer you.
We're also ambassadors, and that's what we're here for the UMDF. So
yeah, so reach out. We want you to, even if it's hard, and I understand. Many people don't realize that Angie's gone sometimes. But even if we no, I'm just going to leave it right there. So thank you everyone for listening. I'm sorry this podcast was so long. I thought it was going to be short, and I just kept going. Thank you. Contact us at mitopodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. And you can watch me cry on YouTube. Everyone have a great night or day, whenever you're watching.